I just got back from my very first time at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, and I have some thoughts. So let's talk about it. I want to share as much detail as I can and as much honesty as I can because, that's what I do here at Stuff About Advertising. I like to be as transparent as possible, give you my honest and truthful opinions. So that's what we're going to do when it comes to my first experience at Cannes. So first of all, if anyone is unfamiliar with Cannes, it is the biggest advertising event in the world. It takes place in Cannes, France. It's in the south of France. It's a beautiful town right on the water. And the event is just huge. There's a lot going on. The Cannes Lions themselves are an award show. A lion is an award. It's the trophy that you get for this award show. They are known as the most prestigious awards in advertising. Like if you win a Cannes Lion, you can pretty much go to any agency you want. Like if you want to work at some of the big name agencies, you most likely have to have a lion on your resume. So these awards are a big deal. But the festival itself is not just about the awards. The Cannes Lions Festival is just one piece of the entire town transforming into an advertising mecca for a week. There's the festival grounds themselves, which have a lot of different buildings and tents for brands and pop-ups and all kinds of things, and that's where the awards happen. But then there's everything outside of the festival where agencies, social platforms, tech brands, anyone that has the money will come and rent a space of Cannes and turn it into their own business activation for the week. So think things like Snapchat, YouTube and Google, Spotify, Meta, Pinterest, Amazon, any of those big names are going to be at Cannes for the week. And so there's so much going on outside of just the awards. I have been dreaming of going to Cannes for years. It has always seemed so out of reach for me. I've never really worked at an agency that even submits to Cannes, so it just didn't seem like it was something I could ever do. And now as a creator, and I guess you could use the word influencer in the advertising space, it has become more approachable for me. I originally wanted to have a brand take me there and pay for me, but that didn't work out. And I felt like I was running out of time to do this. I have a child. I may want to have more children in the future. And I felt like this year was kind of a really good shot for me to just do it. So I paid my way to go. I was there for a week. I left here on Saturday and came back the next Sunday. And I just want to tell you about my experience for the week and how it felt to be there, what I did, what I think about it now, and I want to be completely honest with you. So for most of the week, I was going all over the place. I was going back and forth from the festival grounds to outside of the festival to the branded beaches and setups and stuff. I was meeting people to do collab videos, to go to some other friends' talks and panels. I moderated a panel while I was there. I wanted to check out as many of the activations as I could. And I just wanted to immerse myself in Cannes. It's always been this thing that's just like, I have so much FOMO when it comes to Cannes. And I've covered it on my videos for the past couple years, all the way from Denver, Colorado. So it was really cool to finally be there in person and experience it in a different way than I have before. I think the biggest thing that people are curious about is the money. How much it cost me to go there, what it entails, to see if it's even possible for you if you're paying your own way. So I'm going to be extremely transparent about how much money I spent. I'm going to break it down for you and tell you about some of my monetary decisions for Cannes. So first, let's talk about travel. Travel is going to include my flights, my Ubers. I took a train ride there, parking at the airport, all of that stuff I'm putting under travel. So I flew economy. I did pay for seat selections because I wanted an aisle seat. I did not want to be trapped between people for a 10-hour flight both ways. I took more Ubers than I was expecting, to be honest, because the heat there was so brutal. And I had, video shoots and stuff and the panel and everything to go to. And I felt like I didn't want to start my day super sweaty and gross. So a couple days I Ubered from my Airbnb, which was like a 25-minute walk, to the main area. I Ubered instead of walking to just maintain some semblance of feeling like I was put together. So I took more Ubers than I was expecting. And another thing was Ubers in Cannes are difficult. UberX was almost impossible to get. The night I got there and was trying to get an Uber from the airport in Nice to Cannes, which is like a 30-ish minute drive, I literally sat there for 40 minutes waiting to find a driver on UberX. Yes, it was very busy. There were a lot of people waiting, but 40 minutes and people were coming and going. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? So I had a hunch and I switched from Uber to Uber. I think it was called Berliner or something. It's like their version of Uber Black. I switched to that, which was double the price, and immediately got a driver. So that told me that UberX was really not going to be an option for me that week. So almost every Uber I got was either like the Uber Black or Uber Comfort. So much more expensive, but otherwise wouldn't have been able to get one. So all of that stuff together, I spent $2,016. For lodging, I did split an Airbnb with my other creator friend, Dara Denny. That is honestly the thing that made me decide to go to Cannes this year, that the fact that I had someone to split a place with was super important because lodging there is so expensive. The hotels right on the main area, you're looking at like $1,000 a night, which is not doable for me. So I had to get an Airbnb, and even Airbnbs are very expensive. So having Dara to split it with was key to making this trip happen. We stayed at that Airbnb from Sunday to Saturday, and then I got a separate hotel in Nice the night before my very early flight on Sunday. So all of that stuff together came out around $1,800. Food, it's funny. I said that one of my goals for Cannes was to not pay for food. But that's because I had some dinners with people scheduled. I knew that I could get food at some of the branded activations, and I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to spend any money on food while I was there, or if I did, it was just like a pastry here and there. That didn't really happen. I couldn't make it to one of the dinners that I was planning on going to, and then the other dinner got canceled, unfortunately, and it just didn't work out that way. So I did spend money on food. So this is going to include food at the airports to and from. There was a cafe on the Cannes Festival grounds that I got some stuff from, snacks here and there, croissants, of course. I did find food at a couple of the activations, which was great. Spotify Beach had sushi and poke and delicious food. So I ate lunch there one day. I also had dinner with a business, so that was expensed by them one night. So there were a couple meals that I didn't have to pay for, which was great. So everything together, food-wise, came to about $222. I did also have an official creator pass for the festival. The festival itself is very, very expensive to get into. The normal pass is around $4,500. Like, it is very expensive. I originally tried getting a press pass from Cannes to get in for free and also have access to all the things that the journalists have access to. That didn't work out. I'm sure you've heard about that already, but I did end up getting a creator pass, which is a new pass. I think they started it last year to encourage creators and influencers to come to Cannes. This is a cheaper pass. After taxes and the exchange rate, it comes out to about $1,600. And you do have to apply. You have to get accepted as a creator to get this pass. I did get accepted, but I hadn't decided if I wanted to spend the money or not. And then I got a very generous brand who offered to pay for it for me. So thanks to the brand partner, I did have the creator pass, but I didn't have to spend any money on it. So that was a great little bit of savings there. Some miscellaneous gear that I got for CANNES specifically. There was my paint can for Can of Worms. I got some new mics because I knew I was going to be talking to people outside and in busy areas, and I really wanted some good sound quality. I also bought a couple of portable chargers, which were clutch, some hand portable fans, which were also clutch with the heat. I also bought a selfie screen so that I could put that on the back of my phone and use the back camera for better quality. That thing broke immediately, so I will be returning that. But all of that stuff combined was $409. And then I also had some foreign transaction fees. Normally, I would have used my credit card that does not have the fee for foreign transactions, but I just got a business credit card and I'm trying to spend enough money on that to get the welcome bonus points. So I was willing to eat that cost a little bit of the foreign transaction fees to just get myself closer to that bonus. So not a ton, but I had $13 in foreign transaction fees. So altogether, I spent about $4,500, which is good because I was preparing to spend $5,000. So I'm glad I came in under that all in. And the Ubers were kind of an expensive thing that I wasn't expecting to have to pay for while I was there. So I would have come in even lower than that if the heat hadn't been so bad and I didn't mind walking. But pretty expensive, $4,500 if I were also paying for the creator pass, obviously much more. So you have to keep everything in mind if you're planning on going and paying for it by yourself. It's not just the flight and the place to stay. There are so many other things that pop up that you have to pay for. So it's good to just understand that it's a huge expense if you're going to go to Cannes. I did try to post as much as I could while I was there, but I knew that I didn't do as much as I wanted. So I knew there would be some unanswered questions and things that you were all curious about. So I asked on my Instagram, what do you want to know about my first trip to the Cannes Lions Festival? And so I'm going to go through as many of these questions as I can. And again, I will be as honest as possible. So the first question was, which campaign stood out to you, or were there any favorite winners? And I did have some favorites. One of my favorites was by the agency Bear Meets Eagle on Fire. They're from Australia. This was a campaign for Telstra, which is a communications like phone company or network. And their campaign was called Better on a Better Network. I remember seeing this a while ago when it first came out and loving it. So I was really excited to see that it won a couple different awards, including a Grand Prix for animation. This campaign is 26 super short stop motion videos, and they all feature different animal puppets who are talking about how different towns in the country and remote areas, how they are better on a better network. It's very dry humor, very silly. Because the spots are so quick, it's just quick wit, and it's exactly my type of humor, so loved that campaign. There was also a French spot that won in the film category. It was called The Last Birthday. I had never seen this before until I was at the award show. When they announce the winners, they play either the case study video or, in this case, the actual spot itself on the big screen in the auditorium. So I had never seen this one before, and let me tell you, it was hilarious. It had the entire auditorium cracking up. The spot is about how in France, if you lose your eyesight after the age of 60, you lose out on disability benefits as well. And I won't spoil the video for you. I highly recommend watching it, but it is very dark humor. It also felt like very classic advertising. It had a reveal, and it was just so good and so unexpected. Highly recommend you go watch that. And then another one that I really liked in the film category was The Final Copy of Elon Specht. And this was a short documentary about the copywriter who wrote the famous L'Oreal line, "Because you're worth it." She seems like such a hilarious and blunt woman. It was just so delightful to watch and learn about her and her life and how she came about this tagline and what her experience was in the industry as a woman in the sort of Mad Men era. Someone also asked if there were any cool campaigns in the pharma or healthcare category. There were a couple. One of them was called Plastic Blood by the agency DM9 in Sao Paulo. This campaign was super interesting because it's hard to get people to truly understand how bad environmental issues and health issues are. You really have to use visuals and really rich language to help people not just brush off a problem and think that it's not a big deal. And this campaign did that in a really creative way. They extracted microplastics from human blood and then used that plastic to make bags and cups and straws to visually show how much plastic is actually in our blood. And I thought it was a super creative idea. The visuals themselves were really well done. The design of the name Plastic Blood was really cool. I have seen people on Fishbowl say that this is fake, that this was a fake campaign. And I don't really know what they mean by that, because I was looking at the case study write-up for this campaign, and it says they did a whole museum exhibit style pop-up. They sent things to policymakers. I don't really know how they can say all that if that was truly fake, but I do know that fake campaigns have been a problem in the past. There's a campaign this year that's being investigated for fudging some case study stuff. And you know what? Now that I'm saying that, I think it's actually the same agency that did this. So maybe it is fake. I don't know. But either way, I thought it was a really creative way to talk about something like plastic in blood. You can tell someone they have plastic in their blood and they'd be like, okay, cool. When you see the fact that you can make a freaking cup out of the plastic in your blood, then people are going to start listening. So whether it's fake or not, I thought it was a very creative idea. Another campaign that I liked in the healthcare space it's called The Best Place in the World to Have Herpes. This was by a New Zealand agency called Finch, and the whole idea was to destigmatize herpes and provide as much education and resources as possible to help people have a better experience in New Zealand if they have herpes. It was just classic New Zealand dry humor, and I loved it. It also had the auditorium cracking up. Someone asked if I saw any execs or higher-ups looking at the work in the basement. So let me first explain what the basement is if you aren't familiar. On the official festival grounds in this building called the Palais, in the basement is where they display all of the work. So all of the shortlisted campaigns that were submitted for awards, they are displayed down there. So you can see the case study boards or the out-of-home billboards, or if it's packaging, they have those physical packages on a table on display that you can pick up and look at. It's really cool. I spent as much time as possible down there because that's what I like to talk about, is the creative itself and the work. And most of the time I was down there, it was pretty chill. Literally and figuratively. It was so hot outside, so being down in the basement where it was cool, where there's AC, was definitely a good place to be. But it usually wasn't too busy. That's what I mean, it was figuratively chill. It was not super crowded. It was quiet mostly. It did seem like towards the end of the week it got busier, I think because there are award shows every night, and you see something win an award and you're like, ooh, I want to learn more about that. So then people came down to the basement to go explore those works a little bit more. They also had a section in the basement with a bunch of tablets and computers set up, so you could sit there and put headphones on and watch the case study videos or listen to the radio spots or watch the films or whatever you wanted to do. They had all that down there too. And it's hard to tell just by looking at people whether they're a higher up or an exec or not. But the vibe I was getting from people is that it was mostly juniors to senior level people spending a lot of time in the basement. I did see one person who I know is a CEO looking at the displays, but otherwise it's just hard to tell. But the nature of Cannes, with it being so expensive and kind of hard to get to, it is mostly higher ups who are there. But some agencies do bring the actual creatives who worked on the campaign that is submitted for an award, they bring them to Cannes. So I would just assume that most of the people spending a lot of time down in the basement were the actual creatives. But I don't know for sure. Again, it's hard to tell just by looking. Someone else asked, did you meet a lot of people? Yes. Most of the people I connected with there are people that I knew in some capacity beforehand. Whether that was through social media, like they've, been commenting on my videos or sending me DMs. We've been talking back and forth a lot, people on LinkedIn or through email. And it was really great to put faces to those names, people that I DM with a lot, I only know as a tiny, tiny little profile picture and a username. So it was so funny when someone walked up to me and they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so. And it takes me a second to register who they are. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been talking to you online for so long and now we're here in person. So that was really cool to meet people. I met a good number of followers as well. I am so glad that so many people came up to me and said hi and introduced themselves. I purposefully carried my can of worms can outside of my bag as much as possible because I wanted people to see that and be able to, connect that with me and understand that this is Ashley from Stuff About Advertising walking around. I wanted people to come say hi to me. So I was really nervous that I was going to put off like an unapproachable vibe because I'm such an introvert. And like when I'm out of my element, I don't really exude like confidence or like the energy that you can come talk to me. So I was really nervous about that. And I'm glad that didn't put anyone off from coming to say hi because it was amazing to meet some of you. Another question was, are most people open to building connections or do they mostly just stay with their teams? It did seem like the solo travelers were the ones who were more likely to come up and say hi. People who were there with their agencies or their, company teams did seem to stick together a lot. They're traveling from wherever they're staying to maybe their own activation. So they're often traveling as a pack. Also, just walking around the town, I saw a lot of teams, what I'm assuming are agency teams, having dinner together or going out for drinks together. I think that's just the nature of if you're going on a work trip with your company, you're most likely going to stick with them. And honestly, I don't blame them. I think I would want to stick with a group too, which actually leads me to the next question, which was, how did attending Cannes solo impact my experience? I honestly think it had somewhat of a negative impact. While it's nice when you're alone to not have to worry about coordinating with other people's schedules and you can just kind of go wherever you want, whenever you want, as an introvert, being alone made it harder to enjoy whatever I was doing. And I know that sounds backwards. I think the assumption is that introverts want to be alone. When I'm in my element and I'm comfortable, like at home or in my car, wherever, yeah, I'm totally fine being alone. And a lot of times I need to be alone to recharge. That is absolutely true of being an introvert. But when I'm out of my element, which I very much was at Cannes, I tend to just shrink and get timid and scared and shy. I don't want to go talk to people. I don't want to go to a restaurant by myself. I struggled to get pictures of myself in front of, the Cannes sign or on the red stairs. Like I wanted all of that stuff, but when I'm by myself and out of my element, I am just too shy. And I think if I had a group with me, I would have enjoyed all of that much more. Thankfully, I had Dara for some things. We usually kind of did our own things during the day because we had a lot of commitments and things we had to go do separately. But it was really nice to come back to the Airbnb at the end of the day and just debrief with each other and talk through things because it was also her first time at Cannes. So that was awesome to just have kind of a comfortable place to come back and have someone to talk to. We also did some stuff together, like we went to the Spotify concert together, which was so much fun. She came to the panel that I was moderating, which was awesome. I'm so glad she came to support me. I needed it. And we also went to a villa together to see some other creator friends do their talk. So we did spend some time together, and those times were really great. And it kind of proved to me that having someone there to do most of the things with throughout the day would have been more enjoyable, I think. A couple of people wanted to know what the main topics of all the panels and talks and things were, whether it was creative, content, media, delivery, or tech. Honestly, I would say it was all of the above. The official festival talks tended to lean more towards creativity and strategy. They also had, because they had the creator pass for the festival, they had a creator rooftop, which was a literal rooftop on one of the main festival buildings that was dedicated to creator-focused panels and talks. It seemed like a lot of the branded beaches and company setups over there were more focused on some creator stuff, but also media, delivery, and tech. Because they're trying to push their own platforms and their own ad services and things, which tend to lean more into media and tech. But creator, I feel like the creator side of things, the creator topic was definitely, I'd say, the biggest topic of the week. I assumed it was going to be AI, and honestly, AI wasn't really talked about much, at least in the things that I saw. Creators were absolutely the talk of the town for the week. What was the best panel you saw? Well, I hardly made it to any talks at all, to be honest. I was constantly going from place to place, and the few times that I wasn't running around, I wanted to spend time in the basement looking at the work. And then one time I had planned on going to some talks on the official festival grounds, and I was like, oh, I've got an hour or so to kill before, so let me go look at the work in the basement beforehand, and then I'll make my way over to the talk. I got so distracted with the work that I missed the talk completely. Luckily, they do record a lot of the official festival panels and things and post them online for people that have the pass. I think I have access to that for a couple more weeks. I've already got the tabs pulled up on my computer to watch as many of those as I can and try to catch up. But not all of the talks I wanted to go to were recorded, which is unfortunate. Of the few talks that I saw, I would like to say that the panel I moderated was pretty good. Dara said it was good. Maybe she's just saying that because she's a good friend, but I do think it was good. I was given freedom to ask whatever questions I wanted. They already had the topic and the people in place, but they said, here's all the information we have, ask whatever you want. And I really just leaned into my curiosity as a creative and what I would want to know if I were sitting in the audience. And I feel like it was a good discussion with some really talented people. I also went to the Darkroom Villa. Darkroom is an agency, and I wanted to go see Ashwin and Oren's talk. Ashwin is Schwinnebago brand on social, and Oren is Oren Meets World. They are two other creators in this space, and we've been mutuals for so long, and it was really cool to finally meet them in person. But their talk specifically was about social content for brands and giving people advice, and it was packed full of actionable tactical advice, which is hard to come by, honestly, at conferences, especially CANNES. Everything can feel very high level and aspirational and like, oh, this is cool to hear, but what do I do with this? Ashwin and Oren had so much tactical advice. They also had this little dossier to take home, which was great. And there are all kinds of examples and tips and things in here. I mean, what kind of talk at CANNES has something like this to take away? Like they really put effort into this, and it was a value-packed talk. So congratulations to them for what they did. Another person asked if I got to do anything or see anything related to Young Lions. Again, I'll explain this for anyone who is unfamiliar. Young Lions is part of the official festival. It's a competition for people who are 30 and younger. And there are local competitions in all the different countries. And then the finalists from those competitions come to CANNES and compete with all of the other countries. So it's a global competition at that point. During the festival, they get a brief, and then they have 24 hours to come up with their ideas and do any mock-ups or videos or whatever they need to do to bring their idea to life. And then they present their stuff to a jury. I didn't see much of this, to be honest. I don't know if it was really open to the public to see. I'm not sure. But I was at the award show where they announced the Young Lions winners, and they got to come up on stage. And the group actually was mostly women, which was exciting to see. Like the future of our industry has so many talented women who are driven to do a competition like this. Like, that was really exciting to see. I did also get to meet one of the Young Lions competitors. I met up with some folks at Gray for just a drink and some snacks and stuff. And one of the people from there, she was from Brazil, and she was in the Young Lions competition. So I got to talk to her a little bit about her experience, and she just seemed stoked to be there. And it sounded like it was a pretty positive experience for her. Another question was, are most attendees at CANNES leadership level, or were there any junior to mid-level people there? Like I mentioned earlier, the nature of CANNES, with how expensive it is mostly higher ups. But I did see some lower level folks there too. Like I said, they bring some of the teams who actually work on the campaign to CANNES. So they were definitely there. I also saw a good number of students there. I personally saw students from BYU, South Carolina, and Miami. I do know VCU also had students there, but there are colleges and programs out there that pay to send like a teacher or an educator of some kind, and then a group of students to CANNES. So I love that colleges and programs are spending money on that, because I can't imagine how inspiring a trip like that would be when you are still a student. That's such a cool opportunity for them. I do wish that more people who actually did the work that is submitted or winning awards got to go. Just because you submit something or just because you win something doesn't mean you automatically get to go to CANNES. Like, your agency still has to pay for you to go. And sadly, not a lot of them do. The CEOs or CCOs or whoever, higher up people, they typically go and accept the award on behalf of the agency. And that's unfortunate. Like, I 100% believe if you worked on a campaign that wins an award, you should be there. Absolutely. Like, that's what companies should be spending their money on, but not all of them do. But even if you don't have a campaign that's submitted, or, maybe if you were just shortlisted or whatever, I think companies and agencies need to be spending more money bringing lower level creatives to CANNES, regardless of whether they're submitting or not. Like, they are the ones who will be inspired the most by what is surrounding them at this overwhelming and insane event. I feel like they could benefit the most out of anyone there from all the education and talks and stuff going on. A big question that I got a lot was it what you were expecting? I was expecting it to be a huge celebration of work and creativity. And outside of the 2-hour award shows every night, it didn't really feel like that. What I realized over the week is that CANNES is less of an award show and more of a huge networking event, which is why it is typically the C-suite and higher level people who are there. They are the ones making the connections and the deals. All of the branded beaches and company setups there, every single one of them has private meeting rooms set up. And there's a reason for that, because this is a networking event where business deals happen. You have people from all over the world in one place for a week. It is so much easier to get together face to face and make some deals happen. So while I really want more younger, lower level people to be at CANNES, I understand why agencies would rather spend money on the higher ups to go. We would love to think that CANNES is about the awards. It's not. Like, it is absolutely about business, and the awards are just kind of a fun thing that's tacked on to the end of every night. And whether CANNES wants to admit that or not, that is absolutely the vibe. The work takes a backseat to all of the money, the handshakes, the business deals, the partnerships. That is why people go to CANNES every year, because of what comes out of it. Another expectation that wasn't really met for me was about the activations. They just weren't very exciting. I was thinking all of these branded beaches and setups would be very much like the experiential stuff you see at music festivals or really interactive pop-ups that you see articles written about and people sharing on social, like the base human claw machine or a big obstacle course or something interactive like that, just something to do and participate in. But it was mostly just like, hey, we have this beautiful beach set up. Come learn about our advertising offerings and then we'll give you a free tote bag. It seems like the freebies were the experiences for most of these setups. Spotify Beach was my absolute favorite branded activation there because it didn't feel like that at all. It was just a really cool place to hang out and eat and see some talks. They had some really good creators there. It was just great vibes at Spotify Beach. I actually spent a couple hours there because it just felt so chill and relaxing there. They had food and fresh juice and ice cream, and it was just immaculate vibes at Spotify Beach. I feel like a good activation at Cannes either needs to be like that, like just a good hangout spot, or it needs to be something super interactive. And I think for some people, that was Pinterest. Pinterest has, they call it Manifestival, and it's supposed to be like you are living out an actual Pinterest board, like a real life Pinterest board where you're exploring different hobbies and different aesthetics and stuff. And I really wanted to love it, but I went 3 separate times, and every single time the lines for all their different activities and crafts and stuff to do were at least 30 minutes long. And it's hot as hell out there. And I have no patience to sit in a line for at least 30 minutes to then sit at a table and do a craft in the heat. Like, it was just brutal. And also, every single time I went to Pinterest, they had this interactive patisserie thing where you could answer a couple questions and then it would spit out a like custom pastry for you. Every single time I went there, they had just closed off the patisserie. Like, as I was walking down the stairs, they're like, okay, no more. And it was in the middle of the day. It wasn't like, the end of the day, they're out of pastries, whatever. I think they were just taking a break or something, but it happened every single time I went, which was so frustrating. So that was just disappointing, I think. And it's just weird because as advertisers, we often come up with experiential ideas. We have to do that for our clients a lot of times. And for this to be a place for advertisers, you would think that they would be the best activations possible. Like, we are advertising to advertisers. We got to step up our game and do some of the most creative, interactive activations as possible. Yet it all felt very B2B boring, to be honest. They just felt very lackluster. And to be fair, I didn't make it to every single one of those branded activations, but still, from the pictures and things I saw, it's fine. There's a couple photo ops and some freebies and stuff, but other than that, like, there's just not much to do. I also didn't really hear anyone talking about the activations or the branded beaches. Like, you would think if they were really exciting, people would be saying, hey, you gotta go to this brand's beach because you can't miss it. I honestly feel like Spotify was the only one that people were like dying to get into. And for good reason. It was a great beach. I loved it. I could have spent all week there, to be honest. All right, next question. Is Cannes a good representation of the whole industry? No, it is not. It is largely agencies from holding companies because they have the money to do this. They have the money to travel to Cannes, but they also have the money to submit to Cannes. Submission costs for the Cannes Lions Awards are very costly. And not just for the submission itself, but also for the time and the resources that go into creating your submission. You have to create a case study board. You basically have to create a case study film. And those things are very time consuming. A lot of work goes into them. A lot of people touch these things. There's a lot of billable hours and stuff. And for smaller and mid-sized agencies, it's just not possible. So Cannes is mostly holding company central. There were some independent agencies there. They do have independent agency awards, but I just cannot say that this festival is a good representation of the whole industry, because I truly believe that it's not. It very much feels like if you're not at a holding company or a pretty notorious or well-known independent agency, you are just not there. Another question, should content creators go to Cannes? I don't know yet. I feel like the jury's still out. I know that Cannes is really vying for creators. They made the creator pass. They doubled the amount of creator passes they were giving out this year. There was a lot of creator-focused content, but there are some things that would hold me back from recommending this to content creators. A big one was that it seemed like content just wasn't performing as well there. And I talked to Dara about this. Dara talked to some other creators about this, and it seems like the consensus is that the rest of the world either doesn't know anything about Cannes or doesn't care. So to someone who has no interest in advertising, for like a lifestyle influencer who is there invited by a brand or something, to their audience, this just seems like some other lavish travel experience that this rich influencer gets to go do. So it's not relatable. So it seems like their content wasn't really performing any better than their regular content, and in some cases it was worse. The nature of social algorithms as well tends to show you more local content. So while I was there, I was getting all kinds of European-centric content. Granted, I wasn't spending much time scrolling on my feeds or anything while I was there, but when I was, it was very different content than I'm used to seeing in the States. And I think that was also making it difficult for content to perform well, because it's just different audiences. The internet was also pretty awful. If you were not on the official festival grounds where you can connect to their Wi-Fi with a special code you get with your pass, then it was just not gonna work. I think at one point it took 2-minute video of mine an hour to upload. Posting content there is so difficult because of the internet, and also because of how chaotic the entire event is. Like, you record some footage and then you have no time to sit down and edit. Like, you're on to the next thing immediately and you're capturing more footage there. There's also no quiet place really to sit down and edit. You're just go, go, go the whole time. The internet sucks. So I just feel like if you don't have an editor or someone to help you do this content, like, you're really gonna struggle to find the time to be posting constantly while you're there. And I really wasn't expecting that. I asked my husband before I left if I should be worried about posting too much. I was like, because I was expecting to be posting like 20 times a day. That did not happen. I think I posted at least once a day. Some days I posted 2 times, but it was just so hard to get any content edited and posted. So the jury's still out for me on whether or not it's going to be a place for creators to go. I think it will for the next couple years, because people are just curious and looking for some new experiences as creators, but I'm not sure about the long term if it will continue to be a place for creators to go. We'll see. All right, I've got 2 big questions left, 2 questions that were asked quite often. The first one is, was it worth it? Did being at Cannes drive any sort of business for me or revenue at all? Was it worth going to Cannes? And I will say yes and no, but I am leaning ever so slightly more towards no. And I'll tell you why. I did get a couple things out of it business-wise. I think stronger relationships with people and agency teams that I had never met face-to-face. Just being there in person really made those connections stronger and will hopefully lead to something more in the future, but I don't know yet. There's a lot of talks of, oh yeah, we should collab or we should work together in the future, but nothing really concrete happened while I was at Cannes. That, of course, could change over time. I hope it does. I think maybe some of those relationships could lead to either some sponsored content or like a consulting gig or a speaking gig or whatever it is. But obviously I won't know until that happens. But at this moment, it's just kind of in limbo, sort of. I did have some sort of personal revelations that came out of this that I think make it worth it in a sense. One thing that I realized while I was there is that I need to just start asking for what I want. Like I said earlier, I'm very much the kind of person that shrinks and becomes very timid and shy. And I really hate inconveniencing people. I hate asking for help. And because of that, I have been very passive with stuff about advertising. I wait for people to come to me and to offer me opportunities. But this trip made me realize that that's holding me back a lot. I have this incredible community of people who love my content, and a lot of people in that community could help me get further and get to where I want to be as a creator and as a business owner. There are so many people who want to collab with me or support me however they can, and I just have to tell them how to do that. Like, I don't really talk outwardly about what someone can hire me for or how they can support me. And I need to just be more forthcoming about that and treat this business like it's an actual business. I think because I just started this as a hobby and like a creative outlet, it's really hard for me to cross over to that zone. But if I want to do more of this, I have to make money from it. And to get there, I need to start putting myself out there and asking for what I want. Another personal revelation that came from this was some clarity on where stuff about advertising fits in the industry and as content. I am a creative person. I have ADHD. My mind goes in a million directions all the time. I have a million ideas, and I have always struggled with which direction to follow and what to pursue because I have so many things going on in my head, and I feel almost like paralyzed by choice. And I've had a really hard time figuring out what the future of stuff about advertising is. And while I was at Cannes doing some of the coverage I did, I had like an epiphany, I guess you could call it. And it's that I want to dive so much deeper into creative. I don't think there are many creators out there in this space who have the same kind of background and experience that I do. And that's what sets me apart. So that's what I want to lean into. People love my content for my honesty, for the commentary and analysis that I put into things, for my deep dives. Like, I don't need to chase anything else. I need to just do that. Because that's also what I love to do. I really do enjoy sharing news and stuff and talking about industry gossip and whatever, but I feel like I can provide so much more value with my creative brain and the commentary and transparency and stuff that comes out when I talk about that stuff. So being at Cannes and having a lot of interesting conversations and stuff while I was there definitely helped me understand that I want to lean into that creative analysis and do more deep dives and just be as honest and transparent about the industry as possible while doing all of that. So I would say a lot of good came out of Cannes in terms of where I want to take stuff about advertising. So if that works out, then yes, it was worth going to Cannes. If I continue to waffle and if I can't ever decide on what I want to do, then maybe not. Maybe it wasn't as much of an epiphany as I thought. But I think it is. I do feel more confident and clear about where I'm going after this. Last question. Do you want to go back again? And then someone also asked, if I do go back again, what would I do differently? I'll tell you right now, I am not going back if I have to pay for it. It's a lot of money. It was a big swing for me to go this year, but it was something that, I talked to my husband about. We looked at our finances and we said, this is a bucket list trip for me. And we are fortunate to have the circumstances right now where we can make this happen. But it's not possible for me to do this every year and spend this kind of money every year. So if I can get a brand or someone to sponsor me and take me there and, pay for the flights and hotels and all that stuff, then yeah, I'll go again. Sure. But I cannot put my own money into it again. It's just so expensive. And I'm not rich, especially if I'm going to try to make stuff about advertising more of my main job. Like, I'm going to not have as much money for a little while. So I will not go back if I'm paying for it. If I do go back, what I would do differently is stay closer to the main festival area. My Airbnb was about a 25-minute walk to the main area. And like I said, the heat made that pretty unbearable. But it also made it really hard to do anything late at night. Like, Gutter Bar is a big thing that people told me to go to. It's this bar that everyone hangs out at late at night, and it's apparently like the best networking spot at Cannes. But Gutter Bar was on the other end, like the far end of the main walkway area, and to go from there to my Airbnb, it would have been at least a 35-minute walk. And I'm not going to do that by myself at 2 a.m. So I never made it to Gutter Bar because of that. And also, just going from place to place was very difficult when my home base is 25 minutes away. So I would absolutely want to stay closer, as close as possible. I know the hotels there are $1,000 a night or whatever, but there's got to be something a little closer that I could make happen. I also really wanted to go to the live judging sessions. I did not make it to any of those this year, which made me sad, but it's really cool because you can actually go watch people present their campaigns to the judges and hear the judges ask questions and talk about what they like about the campaign or whatever. And I think that would have been a really cool thing to experience. So if I do go back, I will absolutely be prioritizing those. And then the last thing I would do differently is to plan my schedule based on locations. I didn't realize how spread out everything is. Going from the official festival area, which is kind of on one end, all the way to the other end where all the branded beaches and stuff are, that's probably a 30-minute walk, if not more, maybe more. But what's also interesting is there are villas. So the main walkway area, if you're looking at a map, is right on the water, essentially. And then above that is the hills of the city, and there are villas up there that brands and agencies will rent for the week, and that becomes their home base. And to get to those villas, you can walk, but again, it's hot as hell, and you're walking uphill. So a lot of times they have shuttles to get you there, or you just take an Uber. And if you want to go to any of those villas because of the transportation issues, you really need to allocate like at least 2 hours to go to one villa. So it's very hard to say like, oh, I want to go to a talk at the Palais, then I want to go to Gutter Bar, or then I want to go to a villa in the hills. Like, you can't coordinate like that unless you have a private car who is taking you wherever you want to go. Even then, the traffic is awful, so I don't think that would work. So what I would want to do next time is, instead of just looking at the list of events and picking what I want to do, I would go by location and say, I'm going to spend this day in this area and do whatever is in that area. And then the next day, I'll do a different area. Or maybe I'll go to the villas the next day, whatever. Absolutely location-based scheduling. I think that would have completely changed my experience if all of that was a bit better coordinated. So that was a lot of information. I don't regret going whatsoever. I really do not. I am very glad that I got to experience this in person. I'm so happy that I got to meet so many amazing people, and some of you even, like, it, that I would not trade. But I also feel like this trip kind of cured me of my FOMO. I used to feel extreme FOMO when people were talking about Cannes, and I was stuck all the way in Colorado, and I was like, I don't get to experience this huge part of the industry, and it's my dream to go, and I'm so sad that I can't be there. I honestly don't have that anymore. Like, next year, if I can't find someone to pay for me, which I hope I can, but if I can't, like, I'm not going to be devastated. It's not a must do, but if you have the opportunity to do it, then do it. Absolutely. But I don't think you need to feel sad if you're not there. I do think I want to spend more time at events and conferences and things in the States. Like I said, I live in Colorado. Not much goes on here. And I don't have many opportunities to travel to to go to these events and conferences and stuff. And I think this has made me want to seek that out a bit more, because I did really enjoy the face-to-face time with people. And, I don't have to go to the south of France to make that happen. So I definitely want to look more into some local conferences and events that I could go to and try to find similar experiences there. So yeah, that was my first experience at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity. It was expensive, it was long, it was hot. I missed my family a lot, but a lot of good came out of it too. There were highs and lows, for sure. I don't regret going. Again, if I can go next year or the year after or whatever, I will jump at that chance. That's Cannes.